The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Why did you shoot Jenna Ryan on February 24th?
He was attacking Christine. Christine told me that she was bleeding out and that she was sorry and that she loved me.
You agree you're on video holding her neck with your bare hand, correct?
I think so.
So where had the towel, the blanket, the sheet gone at that point?
The countdown is on. Closing arguments just hours away in the Au Pair Affair murder trial. Brendan Banfield, do you believe him or not? We've got a body language expert going to break down all of his testimony this hour. Also, is killer Bryan Kohberger leaving the Idaho prison system? Staff say they're allegedly fed up with the inmate. We'll talk about that. Plus, a super fan of Luigi Manion allegedly tries to break him out of jail. The bizarre plan as the accused assassin is set to appear in court today. It's all next right here on Opening Statements. Good morning and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant on this Friday morning. It would be kind of nice to have Julie here today because I'm sure she would rant at what Brendan Banfield did on the stand yesterday. We're going to break down all of that. We'll go through basically the highlights. If you missed it, it was all day. I mean, between him and his defense attorney, it's painfully slow, but we've got it all packaged together, and then we're going to have a body language expert come in and dissect, especially that cross-examination. Did you believe him? Plus Luigi Manion, Bryan Kohberger. A lot to get to here in our first hour of programming on this Friday as we round out another week. Let's start, as we always do, though, with a look at the daily docket.
Okay, in the Common Pleas Court of Clark County, Ohio, State of Ohio, plaintiff versus William Brock, defendant. Case number 24CR0278, verdict form count 1. We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do find the defendant, William Brock, guilty of the murder of Lolita Hall.
In Ohio, the sentencing of William Brock is scheduled for 9:30 this morning. He, of course, was convicted of murdering Lolita Hall, an Uber driver who Brock claims he thought was trying to rob him. We'll be live streaming that one. In Massachusetts, Aiden Kearney, a.k.a. Turtle Boy, has a motion hearing. He was charged with witness intimidation and conspiracy related to the criminal case of Karen Reed. That also a 9:30 start. And in Virginia, closing arguments expected in the Au Pair Affair murder trial. Those begin 10 a.m. Eastern. The jury will have that case soon after, and that's where we're going to begin the hour. Brendan Banfield. Brendan Banfield, what a doozy he is. He was on the stand for a second day in a row on Thursday. He says he has no idea what happened with Christine. How did this man allegedly get into his house on this fetish dating website before the murder? But prosecutors say it was Banfield. He was actually the one behind the dating profile, and he used it to lure that man, Joseph Ryan, to their home to have violent sex with his wife so he could set up a double murder and get rid of his wife. Banfield detailed the morning of the killings during direct, and then on cross, the prosecution grilled him.
I heard the sounds of, I would say, moaning, as well as sound of skin-on-skin contact.
And what did you think was going on at that point?
Sex. Pushing the door open with my right foot revealed Christine, and who I now know is Joseph Ryan. They were on the floor near the bottom left of my bed.
You saw a knife there. What were you thinking in terms of Joe Ryan with a knife to Christine's neck?
I was extremely terrified. He told me that she was hers, that she was hers and that she gave herself to me. And Christine kind of yelled, moaned. It appeared that he did a very forceful stab towards Christine, and Christine kind of spun away from him. So this kind of had Joe now like on his knees, kind of facing Christine, of which I saw him do a downward stabbing stroke, and that's when I fired at him. Christine told me that she was bleeding out, and that she was sorry and that she loved me.
You've had multiple affairs, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and one of those affairs was with a woman named Danielle, who you met on a fetish site searching for sugar babies. Is that correct?
I would not call it a fetish site.
You see Joe Ryan behind your naked wife with something metal in his hand. Is that accurate?
Yes.
You did not yell for Juliana, who's behind you, to call 911.
I didn't know that Juliana was behind me or had climbed the stairs at that point. I had only seen her on the main floor leaving.
Okay, but you told us that the foyer is this big echoey chamber that you can hear from anywhere in the house. If she's in the foyer and you're standing at the door, whether or not she's immediately behind you, if you yelled, call 911, she would hear you, wouldn't she, in this echoey foyer?
Yes, she would hear that.
Okay, and when first responders arrived, you agree you're on video holding her neck with your bare hand, correct?
I think so.
So where had the towel, the blanket, the sheet gone at that point after you were instructed by 911?
I think the towel was right next to me, but
It was under your knees, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Okay,
I thought it was right next to me.
thank you. Nothing further, Judge.
That was the end of the cross. So, did Brendan help himself? Did he tip the scales? I think he did, but not the way he wanted. What can we expect at closings as well? Let's break it down. Here to discuss on this Friday morning, criminal defense attorney Joe Tamburino. He's up in Chile, Minnesota, and retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer. Good morning to both of you. All right, weigh in first. Jennifer, you go. Did you believe a word he said? Your take.
Well, the devil's in the details, and wow, did this guy give a lot of details. This is not a normal recitation from somebody who is in a panicked, traumatic situation. It was like he had written a script, practiced it over and over and over again, and then recited it point by point, step by step, word by word. So insane, some of this discussion that took place in the middle of this harrowing situation. He also contradicted himself. For instance, he said, listen, he told the au pair to stay in the car with Valerie, and then he changed his mind later. It was very subtle, and said he actually left the basement door cracked for them. So which was it? Just very difficult to believe him.
Joe, what stood out to you?
He was not credible. I mean, it's just that way. You know, I thought as this trial was going on, he's got to testify, because I think the evidence was pretty overwhelming against him. But I thought, okay, maybe he could explain a few things. However, as soon as he took the stand, his mannerisms, his halted speech, the way, you know, he's answering questions, I mean, you know, he doesn't even show any emotion. And I think he's getting mixed up in some things. Not everything that he says makes sense. The whole thing doesn't make sense. So he didn't do himself any favors. I don't think it's going to take the jury long to find him guilty.
And at the end of the day, Jennifer, his theory is that he did break up this event that his wife organized, and yet it's almost, the au pair was just not even a consideration, her testimony. I mean, she got up and told a vastly different story, saying, yes, we did plot it, we had the affair, we did. If I'm a juror and I had a little bit of skepticism from the au pair, I'm going back to her and saying, oh, I believe every word she says now. What are your thoughts on how this is going to play out, especially in closings today leaning into what exactly happened. Are you really saying that your wife wanted this guy over there? I mean, he didn't leave the opening of maybe it was Juliana, maybe she got to the devices, maybe, because I don't know. Your thoughts on zeroing in on making his wife the bad person?
Well, it was a big mistake not pointing the finger at all of this being Juliana. That's what he should have done, clearly, to put some seed of confusion in the jury's mind. Remember, that's all it takes is one juror to believe. But instead, as you said, everything just pointed at his wife. It was an ugly testimony, but I agree with Joe. He had to testify. Anytime you have sort of a self-defense type, that he had to enter into a scene to protect his wife, you have to have him testify. He just did a deplorable job, and they're going to have to show how the evidence matches the au pair story and doesn't match his story.
The eye-rolling skepticism from the prosecutor very evident in her mannerisms while crossing. Joe, what do you expect today during the closing?
Well, I think she's going to do a good job. My only criticism of the prosecutor's cross-examination, and this is more of technique, is she said okay too many times. When you're trying to cross-examine a witness and the witness says, it happened on a Sunday, stop saying, okay, and then I walked here. Okay, and then I walked over there. Okay, you can't be saying okay all the time. I mean, this is trial work 101. Other than that, I think she did a really good job, and she got her points, and I think she's going to come after him very hard today.
Jennifer, former law enforcement working with the FBI, you have seen some depraved minds. If you believe that Brendan Banfield engineered all of this and is walking around amongst us and might come in contact with our daughters or loved ones, it is as scary as a Charles Manson in a lot of ways, because this is a guy who engineered a deplorable plot to not only kill his wife, but an innocent weirdo on the fetish website goes down with no care at all about another human being.
Well, and I'm going to add another level to what you just said. This was a federal agent, a well-trained federal agent, spent weeks and weeks at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. This was somebody who we hold to a higher standard, being a federal agent. And yet he devised, if we're to believe the evidence, this scheme to, as you said, take off a completely innocent and then also kill his wife. It's absolutely deplorable and really, really deep stuff from the standpoint of the mentality that would do that.
Yeah, it just makes the hair on your neck stand up when you think about it. Now, Joe, there's always a chance, right? We're not in the courtroom. We're seeing him on television. There's a chance, I mean, let's face it, he's very good with the ladies, according to him, that he hooks a juror, that some juror sitting in that box is like, I believe him. Do you think he has a chance that he could he have possibly convinced somebody?
Well, sure, and I could possibly win, the lottery today. I wish I would, yeah, it's possible, of course, but we have to determine what's likely, and I think it's likely he's not going to convince anyone. And, one of the biggest things that stands out to me is, and jurors always think this, jurors always think, at least in my experience, what other kind of history does a person have? If you're on trial for drunk driving, they want to know, have you driven drunk before? If you're on trial for drugs, have you done drugs before? And the evidence is clear that the only person in this case who had some type of familiarity with fetish websites is the defendant. It's not anybody else. So he's saying that it was his wife, yet we have absolutely no history that she was involved in that. And, let's face it, in investigative techniques today, I'm sure they went through all of her electronics and all of her iCloud accounts or whatever it is. So that jury, I think that's going to really be something that they focus on, that the only person in this case who has any type of history with something around those websites is the defendant himself.
Good point. Yeah, nothing, no evidence that she was dead, except him. At one point during his testimony, he said, oh, yes, she used to tell me about her attraction to that type of activity. But again, let's cross our fingers that he doesn't win the lottery today, because we don't want that guy walking around the streets. Let's get a break when we come back on opening statements. We're going to take a closer look a bit later of the body language. What stood out to our body language expert? Plus, Bryan Kohberger. Is he moving? Reports swirling around that the prison staff is fed up with him in Idaho.
He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Caitlin Gonzalez. He encountered Xana, and he ended up killing her also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well.
Trending in true crime this morning, new questions about whether Bryan Kohberger is potentially going to be moved to a new prison. A while back, this reportedly leaked video of Kohberger behind bars, showing him there. There have been some questions about its authenticity, but Kohberger has been complaining about jail life, apparently, ever since he was thrown in prison for killing 4 University of Idaho students. Some of his gripes apparently include a lack of vegan food options, the quality of the bananas, and harassment from fellow inmates. He's currently being housed at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution in Kuna, Idaho, in solitary confinement. Prison officials say he is not being moved. In a statement, a spokesperson said the Idaho Department of Correction is not aware of the source of this information and is not considering a move for Bryan Kohberger. But a law enforcement source says it is true that Bryan Kohberger is being moved, and that source is joining us live this morning right here on Opening Statements. Former homicide detective, friend of the show, Chris McDonough. Chris, good to see you. All right, what are you hearing, and what do you have to tell us in terms of Kohberger potentially moving?
Yeah, so good morning, Ted. So I have a reliable source inside the prison system that has shared with me that IDOC is currently considering possibly transferring him to another facility via an interstate pact agreement, which basically is an MOU between prisons to house other inmates. This is already going on through IDOC, where they house hundreds of other inmates out of state, primarily in Arizona, Texas, and Colorado. So this is not unusual for these types of conversations to be taking place.
Yeah,
the
Richard,
main driver.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one example is Richard Allen, the Delphi killer out of Indiana. He's now in Oklahoma. What does, I guess you were just getting to that. What does motivate an institution to say, you know what, let's dump this guy?
Well, in this particular conversation that I've been made aware of, it's primarily because of overcrowding and the fact that he's such high maintenance, right? The capacity was designed for, or the IDOC prison was designed for about 8,000 inmates, and currently they're carrying about 10,000, and they're also short-staffed. So this is the overcrowding conversation, which is the key factor, I believe, that would probably be considering this type of a move.
And for the institution, having someone like him does take more resources just because of the nature of his high-profile crimes and the fact that he's a target. They basically have to protect him, which is ironic, but true.
Yeah, exactly, Ted. And my source indicates that they're aggressively pursuing this. However, ultimately, it is up to the facility, and they also have to get another facility to agree to accept him based on what you just said. He is such a high-risk inmate. Do they put him, from one problem to the next in another facility?
Let's bring in criminal defense attorney David Gelman to join our discussion. David, good morning to you. This is a guy that is a target, and there's no doubt about it that a prisoner in any of these states that he might end up in is waiting because he's the worst of the worst. How does that factor into all this, and what's your take on the reporting from Chris here that they want him out of Idaho?
I believe Chris. I mean, I'm sure they want him out of Idaho. Did Kohberger think that he was going to the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons or something like that? No, he's going to he's going to a penitentiary for the rest of his life. He knew that. But this is kind of par for the course, it sounds like, for him. He's a very high-maintenance individual. Oh, he doesn't like the bananas that he's being served. I'm so sorry. Your vegan diet isn't vegan enough. There are these things with Kohberger that it doesn't matter what facility you're in. If you're in Idaho, if you're in Texas, if you're in Kansas, it doesn't matter. There's going to be the same things. But I understand where Chris is coming from. There's an overcrowding issue in prisons, not just in Idaho, but it's throughout the country, as we're well aware. We need more prisons in this country. And it's probably best that he does go to another prison for, number one, for his safety, but also because of the overcrowdedness, they need to have individuals that are able to watch him 24/7. And to be able to have an individual to do that, they can't have the overcrowding population. So it probably would be a good idea to ship him somewhere else.
Chris, are these private prisons that are the ones that are saying we'll take him, or why in Colorado, Texas, and these states do they seem to be the dumping grounds, Oklahoma, for difficult inmates? What's the motivation for them to say, oh, we'll take them?
Well, I don't know if these particular prisons are private. There are many private prisons, of course, in the system as a whole. But, I don't know if they're having conversations with a private system that's taking place. And of course, Bryan wouldn't be told this until likely the day of transfer, and possibly that's why IDOC is downplaying this currently behind the scenes. So,
David, what do you tell a client that's heading off to prison that you can't win them all? Sometimes you lose a case and you got a guilty person next to you. What advice do you give? Obviously, you're not representing Bryan Kohberger, but anybody is in potential peril. What do you say?
I tell them, keep your head down, do your time. You're going to come out of it a better person, hopefully. It's what can you really say? I've never been in a situation going to prison, and so I imagine it's pretty tough. But these individuals, you're going to be sentenced. And you're sentenced within like 6 months or 6 weeks, 8 weeks in New Jersey. So you have time to prepare for it. And I think that's all you can do. Kohberger is obviously a totally different animal together because he ain't coming out. So it doesn't matter if you keep your head down or not. You're not coming out of there. You're in there for your life, buddy. Yeah, the old pine box. That's how he's going to get out. Chris, thank you. Appreciate your availability this morning to follow up on your reporting. David's going to stick around. Coming up on Opening Statements. Oh, if you haven't heard about this is bizarre. Somebody shows up trying to break out Luigi Manion from where he's being held in New York. He was armed with a pizza cutter. Well, we'll explain. And we're breaking down Brendan Banfield's body language with our expert.
Did you love your wife?
Very much.
Did you ever create any sort of a plan with Juliana?
No, there was no plan. That is absolutely crazy.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
That's true. It is innocent until proven guilty. That's those are Luigi Manion protesters or followers, or whatever you want to call them. Well, they'll be back, and so will he, in federal court today. But there's another story brewing here. It's the alleged escape plot that is making headlines today. Authorities say that one of Mangione's superfans thought that he could pose as an FBI agent and break Luigi out of jail. The criminal complaint says a man identified as Mark Anderson approached the intake area at the jail where Mangione is being held. Allegedly, he had an order signed by a judge to free Luigi. When asked for his credentials, he pulled out his Minnesota driver's license and said, hey, by the way, I've got some weapons in my bag. There they were, the weapons. There's a photo from the New York Post showing the pizza cutter he was armed with and a barbecue fork as well. Anderson was taken into custody and now, ironically, facing federal charges and being held in the same jail as Mangione. Here to discuss, criminal defense attorneys Joe Tamburino and David Gelman. It's laughable. We're going to talk about what is not laughable, the seriousness of the court appearance today. A lot on tap there. But let's start with this, the idea that a guy shows up with his pizza cutter and says, hey, gentlemen, I'm here to take Luigi home with me. I'll just wait in my car if you can bring him out. David, your thoughts on this and the idea that so many people love this guy who is on video, allegedly, taking a person's life?
Well, you know, for the jail staff, it's probably pretty easy because they didn't have to go very far to lock him up. So I'm sure they like that part. And it is comical and sad at the same time. This is probably an individual that's probably got some mental illness issues, I would imagine, because nobody in the right mind is going to go up to a jail, especially a federal penitentiary or federal holding facility, and just say, oh, hey, look, here's a judge's signature. Yeah, just let Luigi come with me. We're all good. Never going to happen. But this goes to a bigger thing, because think about it. You're going to have a jury selection eventually with this matter. And this is a case that's been sensationalized throughout the country. It's going to be maybe a little more difficult than prosecutors, I think, originally thought to get a unbiased jury, if you think about it. You know, because if you just get one, we all know that's going to taint the jury, and that's going to just, you know, have a mistrial. So I think this is going to keep happening, not to this extent, obviously, but the prosecutors are going to have to be wary moving forward, I think, about, you know, his super payments.
Joe, you're in Minnesota, and I know the cold weather can sometimes make you a little wacky. This guy apparently drove from a pizza parlor in Minnesota with his pizza cutter, which, courtesy of the New York Post, we have the video of. Your take overall on this and the more, as David sort of alluded to, the deeper issue here of the fact that this defendant for murder has an army of support.
Well, two things. First, I would really like it, and I think most people here in Minnesota would too, that Minnesota is off the news for a while. I mean, you know, for the last 6 years, it's just nonstop. There's always something going on here, or Minnesota connected to something. I would just like to see us out of the news. And yes, it appears like this guy, Mr. Anderson, is from Minnesota. He had a Minnesota DL. But to the second point, well, this is all because of social media. So much of social media is toxic. We all know. And, you know, the lawsuits going on right now in L.A. as to whether or not social media or these giant tech companies basically are committing what would be a products liability type of civil action. So they're suing them, you know, does these types of social media produce people who, or have people who, you know, suffer from depression, things along those lines. But that's what I chalk all this up to, which is social media. Somehow he's gotten this entourage of people that think he's a superhero, and it just builds on itself. It's so misguided.
All right, let's talk about what's happening today in court, where Luigi Manion will make an appearance, and it could be a big day for him, because today we could get a ruling from the judge in terms of what the defense wants here, David, and that is to get rid of a part of the stalking case, the enhancer, which carries an intent to kill on it right now, which makes him eligible for the death penalty. They're arguing against that. I don't know how you win that argument. His stalking seems to have been to kill because we see it on the video, but a lot at stake here because at least at this juncture, the goal is to get the death penalty off the table in federal court today. Your take on the chances for Luigi and his defense team?
For today, I think 0% chance that the death penalty is off the table. I don't even think the judge is going to touch that, honestly. And look, I agree with you, Ted. What's the whole idea of stalking? You know, it's to make somebody in fear of their life, obviously. In this particular instance, he had a gun. He knew exactly what he was doing. He stalked to kill. So I don't even know how they're going to get the death penalty part or that part off the table. But yeah, today, I don't think the judge, and frankly, I don't think the judge wants to have the death penalty off the table just yet, for the simple reason that keeping it on there is a negotiation tactic for the government. Because if you have that on there, maybe you could get a plea deal for, murder and possibility of life without possibility of parole. I don't know if that's something that they would even want to do, but at least you have that in your chest, in your war chest, if you think about it. So I just don't think that's going to be happening today.
Good point. Let's first, Joe, weigh in on that, and then also I want to talk about the state versus the feds. The state wants to go first. It seems like they want the trial in July, and that would push them in front of the feds. What's the theory behind that? Is this a ego thing where prosecutors want first dibs, or what's your take on why the competing, let me go first, and then also weigh in, if you would, on his chances of getting the enhancer booted and the death penalty gone today?
Well, with the enhancer, his chances are slim to none. I mean, I understand why he's doing it. It's a death penalty case. You have to contest every piece of evidence. You have to make every motion. You have to dot every I, cross every T. I get it. But the likelihood of him prevailing on winning on the enhancer and removing the death penalty is slim to none. In terms of who goes first, I can understand why the state wants to go first. It was their investigation first. The feds came in second. And, there is a state interest in trying to get this matter concluded before the feds step in. However, the federal charge carries the death penalty. The federal charge clearly has greater weight. So, of course, I think the federal charge should go first. What's interesting, and I'm not any type of expert on New York law, what's interesting is the Manhattan DA is arguing that, look, if we don't go first and the feds go first, that could trigger double jeopardy problems for us. That's very interesting, and I'd like to know more about that.
Okay, we'll see it all play out again. Luigi Manion in court today, and we'll monitor what happens. David, have a great weekend. Always appreciate your time. Joe's going to be back for Court TV Live. Still ahead on opening statements.
Did you love your wife?
Very much.
Did you want to continue your marriage with your wife?
Yes.
As we get ready for closing arguments this morning, Brendan Banfield, was he believable? We're going to break down his testimony with our body language expert.
This is the Court TV podcast.
Why did you shoot Joe Ryan on February 24th?
He was attacking Christine. I mean, he was stabbing her. I mean, I wish I shot him earlier.
Brendan Banfield on the stand. Well, he's done with that. The trial now shifting to closing arguments later this morning. This morning, we're going to break down what he said and how he said it. Did he tip the scales in his favor? Thursday, the former IRS officer completed 2 days on the stand. It's arguably the most important witness of the case, obviously. He's, this was it. If you believe him and you're a juror, then maybe he walks. If you don't, like I do, or most of us, then he's going down. Let's talk about it with jury consultant, human behavior expert, Susan Constantine. What did you notice? Let's talk about this. Susan, good morning. Happy Friday.
Good morning.
So, he is a unique dude. Let's take a look at some of the body language and some key moments. Here he is day one, describing what sparked his affair with the au pair.
During this time, when she was talking about different people, she was described people that she was interested in, people that were taller, people that were older, and it appeared to me that she was, along with the photos, the screenshots that she had shown me of people that she had matched with, that she was basically describing me.
Hey, what stood out to you? To me, I know it stood out, but what about you?
Well, he thinks a lot of himself, doesn't he? So when he says basically, so this is his own opinion. It's not what really happened. So when you say these basically, it's kind of like saying sort of or kind of, but he's describing this moment and then he's smiling at the same time. So there's a sense of arousal that's coming from it. He thinks it's comical. So he's actually relating what he's saying that she said, that it meant him. But he doesn't specifically say that she actually said that. He's assuming.
Yeah, he's so narcissistic that it's like she's talking about men. She's looking for a tall, handsome man, and he's, oh, you're talking about me, I'm sure. Here he is, day two, describing what he recalled entering his home.
There's regular ceiling over the kitchen and living room area, but in the foyer area that leads to upstairs, which is where I heard the sounds coming from.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you hear?
I heard the sounds of, I would say, moaning, as well as sound of skin-on-skin contact.
And what did you think was going on at that point?
Sex.
All right, here he seems to be, just to me, a non-expert. We're going through the details. What'd you pick up?
This reminds me of a little kid when they look at their mommy and they kind of go into that pout, pout gesture. You'll see his kind of head down, and then he actually has a little bit of chin boss. So there is some sadness there. It's not full range, but there is some sort of pouting there. But he also misses the word I. So he says that he pushed open the door, but he doesn't say I pushed open the door. So that is a real problem. And then he's actually, what he's doing is he's telling the story in a chronological linear moment, and then you'll see these little breaks in between each moment. So when you see a change in his verbal dictionary and how he's presenting it, that is troublesome. So he's actually planned it out, what it looks like, where my feet were, where the bed was, and this is very problematic. So the other thing is about him, he's assuming that they're having sex, right? And there's times where when you look at his eye blinking, it actually stops. And then he does an eye closure. So there's a form of blocking. So the question is why did it block? A lot of times people will block when they've come face to face with something that's really bad and they just kind of want to block it out. And also is associated with deception. So they want to block or distance themselves when they're lying. So then at the very end, he does after he makes his statement, you see at the very end of it, then he pops his head down, so it's out of sync. So usually when people are speaking, when it's truthful, their gestures, their head movements, like no, yes, and then but not with him. At the very end, he's basically saying that, and that's what happened, but it's not positively. So that was the thing that, since that was kind of out of sync, was a little bit odd. So he was over structured when he was giving his analysis. You generally don't see that in a spontaneous response, so it's non-spontaneous. So he is playing this out in real time right in front of you, and that's why you see that break in spontaneity, because there's a jump from one scene to another scene to another scene. So that was problematic for me. So liar, liar, pants on fire there.
Yeah. Oh, Julie would like that. Let's see how he reacts to Cross from the Commonwealth, the hard part.
These are the wounds on the left side of her neck, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if I can have the witness and the jury take a look at previously admitted Commonwealth 25, also under seal. And these are the wounds on the right side of her neck, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and she's chatting with you with these wounds in her neck, correct?
Yes, her voice is very hoarse. She was having difficulty speaking, but yes, she was talking to me.
All right. Combative back and forth during this cross. At this moment, it's key because he's talking about his wife who is bleeding out. And he goes on to say that she looked at him and said, "I'm sorry, I love you." What did you pick up in his mannerisms?
Well, when you throughout, what we're seeing is this form of self-pity. We see where his head goes down. He's showing this sadness, but see right there, it's like that puppy dog, like sadness. That is performance. That's not real. That in itself it's missing a couple of the elements because we don't really see the eyebrows going in the middle. We see more of that, puppy dog response. So I don't really believe it. So the fact that he had mentioned that her voice was hoarse, I agree with him. I think that part was true. Now,
but she didn't say "I love you." I'm sure she said "you."
Exactly. Right. So what they do is they pick out and choose what they want to say. We know this. And then we've got a lot of the eye closure, the blocking. He does that throughout. And if you notice that he's kind of jumpy throughout, that's cognitive load. He knows he's under a lot of pressure to perform. So he's trying to perform. There's a lot of anxiety. It's kind of like a teapot. The steam is really boiling and you see it with him jittery. But what we're looking for is things of moments where that shift. And he does shift quite a bit. So even though he thinks he's putting on a really good performance, there are all kinds of indicators in there where he's pausing, he's hesitating. It's not spontaneous. The emotions are not consistent with what we know as being truthful or consistent with it, that actual emotion. Because I study how to read all of the muscles in the face. I know what needs to fire when it needs to fire. And it's not. Right there was not that was more like, believe me. It's really more of a plea to believe him.
Was this rehearsed?
So, anyway.
Was this all rehearsed in his jail cell?
The problem. Oh, yeah. See, the problem is with these guys or anybody that's in jail, that's why they become very linear because they try to fit all the pieces together based on the evidence. So they have to reconstruct their story. And they tend to do it in a very linear, chronological way. That's not how real stories work, especially in high intensity, right? You're going to jog around, you're going to come back here and say, but then I forgot that, and so forth. That's normal, right? That we want to look for something that's non-spontaneous. So anyway, through this, yes, he's lying, pants afire.
He's a liar. Susan, as always, thank you.
He's a liar.
Enjoy your weekend. We'll see what the jury thinks.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.